Today is Wednesday, August 5th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It is a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today out of the Big Book, we are on There's a Solution. We will be reading page 25. Out of the 12 and 12, we're still on step 4. We'll be reading page 47. And of course, we'll read NA's Just for Today and Al-Anon's Courage to Change. So with that, hope y'all are doing well this beautiful Wednesday morning, my friends. Life is really good over here because, man, I am fired up this morning because there's a couple of friends from the Big Book Daily podcast that have reached out, and I want to go ahead and give a big shout out to my dear friend Kyle, and he wrote this back on July 27th. July 27th, 2011. I woke up in a treatment center about 1,500 miles from my house. I had gotten drunk on the plane ride. I haven't had a drink since, so today marks 15 years of sobriety for me. Thank you, Rob. Your podcast has helped in my journey. I get drunk, we stay sober. And that is from my friend Kyle. And first of all, man, congratulations on 15 years of sobriety. Wow. And he relays what it was like back then. And I can feel that pain, man. And what a miracle. Thank you so much for the reminder there. It really blesses me to hear things like that. And he has been willing to share his experience, strength, and hope. So hopefully here soon we can hear his full story, because something's telling me it's a good one. But man, what a miracle. And then another dear friend reached out on the July 28th readings. Her name is Michelle. Rob, I too am a slow learner. I doubt that, Michelle. But when I get it, I get it. My sponsor said this to me when I got sober. What I would do is hear something, analyze it to understand it, because it had to become a part of me to understand what I was learning. Once it became a part of me, I would never forget what I learned. I am so grateful for this program and the teachers that are replacing my life. Man, I appreciate that this is a part of me, and for me, for these readings, they are a part of me. They have proven to stand when all else fails, when all my feelings I can't trust, and go, well, what does the big book say about this? Or maybe I can share this in fellowship, and what do my friends that are sober have to say about this, and write it down and try to apply it. And just wash, rinse, and repeat over and over again until it finally sticks, right? And becomes a part of me. Beautiful stuff. So thank you so much, Michelle, for reminding me that I'm not alone. And I love that. I'm going to take that with me for sure. So thank you, Michelle and Kyle, again. What a blessing. So let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. All right, my friends. So if you recall from yesterday's reading out of the Big Book, There's a Solution. We've been talking about the problem for a big chunk of it, the mental obsession. But now we're finally going to get to talk about the solution, which was the title of the chapter in the first place. So we're going to begin with the squigglies. And again, we're on page 25. There is a solution. Almost none of us like the self-searching, the leveling of our pride, the confession of shortcomings which the process requires for its successful consummation. But we saw that it really worked in others, and we had to come to believe in the hopelessness and the futility of life as we had been living it. When, therefore, we were approached by those in whom the problem had been solved, there was nothing left for us but to pick up the simple kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. We have found much of heaven, and we have been rocketed into a fourth dimension of existence, of which we had not even dreamed. The great fact is just this, and nothing less, that we have had deep and effective spiritual experiences, which have revolutionized our whole attitude toward life, toward our fellows, and toward God's universe. The central fact of our lives today is the absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. He has commenced to accomplish those things for us which we can never do by ourselves. If you are as seriously alcoholic as we were, we believe there's no middle-of-the-road solution. We were in a position where life was becoming impossible. And if we had passed into the region from which there is no return through human aid, we had but two alternatives. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could, and the other, to accept spiritual help. This we did because we honestly wanted to, and were willing to make the effort. Out of the 12 and 12, we're on step 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And in the last couple of days, we've been talking about instincts and how they oftentimes, they're good things, but when we take them to the extreme, they're not so good. And then we talked about the self-loathing one that doesn't want to do the inventory, or the prideful one that doesn't want to do the inventory because they think they don't need one. And we talked about the one who blames everybody else. And yesterday we talked about what the sponsor might say to each one of them. And we talked about for the low self-esteem or the self-loathing one to just talk about his own defects, past and present, and that he is no different, no better or worse than anybody else. And the same thing for the prideful one, that he's no better than anybody else, to find that chink in the armor. And now we're going to address the one who has excuses and blames everybody else for their drinking. We had to drink because at work we were great successes or dismal failures. We had to drink because our nation had won a war or lost a peace, and so it went ad infinitum. So we're going to address that today. Page 47. We thought conditions drove us to drink. And when we tried to correct these conditions and found that we couldn't to our entire satisfaction, our drinking went out of hand and we became alcoholics. It never occurred to us that we needed to change ourselves to meet conditions, whatever they were. But in AA, we slowly learned that something had to be done about our vengeful resentments, self-pity, and unwarranted pride. We had to see that every time we played the big shot, we turned people against us. We had to see that when we harbored grudges and planned revenge for such defeats, we were really beating ourselves with a club of anger that we intended to use on others. We learned that if we were seriously disturbed, our first need was to quiet that disturbance, regardless of who or what we thought caused it. To see how erratic emotions victimize us often took a long time. We could perceive them quickly in others, but only slowly in ourselves. First of all, we had to admit that we had many of these defects, even though such disclosures were painful and humiliating. Where other people were concerned, we had to drop the word blame from our speech and thought. This required great willingness even to begin. But once over the first 2 or 3 high hurdles, the course ahead began to look easier. For we had started to get perspective on ourselves, which is another way of saying that we were gaining in humility. NA just for today, August 5th. The shape of our thoughts. By shaping our thoughts with spiritual ideals, we are free to become who we want to be. Basic text, page 105. Addiction shaped our thoughts in its own way. Whatever their shape may once have been, they became misshapen once our disease took full sway over our lives. Our obsession with drugs self-molded our moods, our actions, and the very shape of our lives. Each of the spiritual ideals of our program serves to straighten out one or another of the kinks in our thinking that develop in our active addiction. Denial is counteracted by admission, secretiveness by honesty, isolation by fellowship, and despair by faith in a loving higher power. The spiritual ideals that we find in recovery are restoring the shape of our thoughts and our lives to their natural condition. And what is that natural condition? It is the condition we truly seek for ourselves, a reflection of our highest dreams. How do we know this? Because our thoughts are being shaped in recovery by the spiritual ideals that we find in our developing relationship with the God we've come to understand in NA. No longer does addiction shape our thoughts. Today, our lives are being shaped by our recovery and our higher power. Just for today, I will allow spiritual ideals to shape my thoughts. In that design, I will find the shape of my own higher power. Al-Anon's Courage to Change, August 5th. Resentments poisoned out most of my waking hours before I found Al-Anon. I could keep a fire under a resentment for days or years by constantly justifying why I felt the way I did. Today, although it's important to notice my feelings, I don't have to continually rehearse and re-rehearse my grievances. It's not necessary to keep reviewing how I've been hurt, to assign blame, or to determine damages. Ultimately, I may not resolve everything with the person in question, though that might be pleasant if it came to pass. I just want to be rid of the resentment because it prevents me from experiencing joy. I try to shift my energy to where it will do some good. I apply steps 6 and 7 because to me, the way to let go of resentments is to turn to my higher power. I want to become entirely ready to have my higher power lifted, and I humbly ask for help. Today's reminder: if I am holding a resentment, I can simply ask for relief, for peace of mind in the present moment. I will remind myself that this relief will come in God's time. Then I can grow quiet, be patient, and wait. Quote from George Jean Nathan: "No man can think clearly when his fists are clenched." All right, my friends, that concludes today's reading. It's some beautiful stuff. I love the Al-Anon reading today. You know, I just watched a clip from this yesterday, but there's a great 80s movie. Of course, I love Dead Poets Society. That's probably my favorite teaching movie of all time. It's just a great movie. But there's another one, too, called Stand and Deliver that was in the 80s. And it's about this teacher who, I believe he's teaching in an inner city, Mr. Escalante. And I think it's based on a true story. And the school is going through some hard times. It's a rougher neighborhood, and students just don't seem to be willing to learn, and a lot of the veteran teachers are blaming everybody else. They kind of have that minimal mindset that, well, it's just the way these kids are, and the school's about to lose I can never say this word right, accreditation, I think. So this isn't the first rodeo for the school going through some hard times. But the point of me bringing this up is, this new teacher, he shows up, and the principal, he's scrambling, right? He's like, well, what do I do? What do I do here? And the veteran teacher's like, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. This is just the way it is. Unless this community gets better, there's nothing we can do about it. But the new teacher, he says, well, I could be better. I can hold my kids up to a higher standard, and I can do more. So he starts with himself. And I love that because that reminds me of this Al-Anon reading right here. It says, ultimately, I may not resolve everything with the person in question. Though that might be pleasant if it came to pass, but sometimes we can't change certain things from the outside. The next line, I just want to be rid of the resentment because it prevents me from experiencing joy. Okay, so what do we do about it according to this reading? I try to shift my energy to where it will do some good. It's like that at Serenity Prayer. There are certain things that I cannot change. However, there are some things that I can change. So I pray to my higher power that He'll give me the courage to change those things and the discernment of whether or not I should. But it starts with me. I apply steps 6 and 7 because to me, the way to let go of resentments is to turn to my higher power. So it starts with action, working steps 6 and 7, which are all about giving those character defects up and being willing to do it in the first place. I love that. I want to become entirely ready to have my higher power lifted, and I humbly ask for help. So I don't remember where I heard this, but I always remembered hearing, be the change that you want to see in the world. I can't change the world. I can't change really anything except for my own attitude and ideals, and a lot of times I just got to ask my higher power to help me with this and come up with strategies along with the fellowship to become a better human being. And I don't say when I say I could do more, I don't mean I need to put more on my back or anything like that. But I could be more humble today. I could be more joyful today, more honest and open-minded and willing to help others. I could do these things. I got some homework today, and I'm excited to do it. But my friends, that's all we have time for today. Please know, as always, I don't speak on behalf of NA, Al-Anon, AA, any other sect or denomination. I'm just a joyful, recovering alcoholic in this lifeboat of recovery. Honored to be here another day, and I mean that. It's an honor to be here, to hear your stories. Guys, I'm going to be real with y'all. Y'all have no idea how much this blesses me. A lot of times you guys are so kind and encouraging, and I appreciate that. I love that, and that definitely helps me. And I appreciate that. But I'll be honest with you, this is probably helping me more than anybody else, this podcast, and holding myself accountable to read this stuff every single day. Because slowly but surely, as my dear friend Michelle said earlier, this recovery stuff is becoming a part of me. And I love it, and it's worth it. It's worth the journey. And sobriety is so much better than those miserable days in the tornado of my alcoholism. So it's an honor. But my friends, if we're given another set of 24 hours, I sincerely look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow.